Have you ever wondered why one black man winning a boxing match once shook the entire United States? Follow if you've never heard this story, because in 1908, a black fighter stepped into the ring and did something America wasn't ready for. He didn't just win. He dominated. His name was Jack Johnson, and he wasn't interested in living by the rules white America had written for him. The Galveston Giant. Jack Johnson was born March 31st, 1878, in Galveston, Texas. His parents had been enslaved before the Civil War, so Johnson grew up in a country still deciding what freedom for black people really meant. But Johnson had size, strength, and something else that unsettled people even more: confidence. He stood 6 feet tall, powerful, smooth in the ring, and calm under pressure. Boxing became his way forward, but the sport itself had a racial barrier. The heavyweight championship, the most prestigious title in boxing, had been unofficially reserved for white fighters. Promoters refused to let black boxers compete for it. For years, Johnson chased the title. Many champions refused to fight him, but eventually, one man accepted. The fight that shocked the world in 1908, Johnson fought reigning champion Tommy Burns in Sydney, Australia. Burns had spent years avoiding Johnson, but money and pressure finally forced the fight. When the bell rang, Johnson controlled the match. He toyed with Burns, blocked punches with ease, countered with devastating precision. Round after round, Johnson dismantled the champion. By the 14th round, police stopped the fight to prevent further humiliation. Jack Johnson became the first black heavyweight champion of the world. For black Americans, it was electrifying. For many white Americans, it was unthinkable: the search for the great white hope. White boxing promoters immediately began searching for someone to defeat Johnson. They called it the hunt for the great white hope. Eventually, they found a man: former heavyweight champion Jim Jeffries. Jeffries had retired undefeated. Promoters convinced him to come back with one promise: he would restore the title to white America. The fight took place July 4th, 1910, in Reno, Nevada. More than 20,000 spectators packed the arena. Millions more followed the fight through newspapers and telegraph reports. Jeffries entered the ring as the symbolic defender of white supremacy. Johnson entered, smiling, relaxed, confident, the fight that changed America. From the opening rounds, the outcome became clear. Johnson was faster, sharper, more composed. Jeffries struggled to land punches. Johnson laughed, taunted, and methodically dismantled him. By the 15th round, Jeffries' corner threw in the towel. Jack Johnson had defeated the Great White Hope, but the real fight was about to begin outside the ring. Riots across America. The victory triggered racial violence across the United States. Race riots erupted in more than 25 states. White mobs attacked black communities. At least 20 people were killed. Hundreds were injured. Newspapers in some cities even banned the publication of fight photos, fearing they would provoke more violence. One black man winning a boxing match had exposed something deeper. America was not ready to see a black man dominate the most celebrated sport in the country. Jack Johnson lived loud, and Johnson didn't make things easier for his critics. In fact, he made things louder. Johnson lived flamboyantly. He drove fast cars, wore expensive suits, and openly dated and married white women at a time when interracial relationships were considered scandalous. To white America during the Jim Crow era, this was more than arrogance. It was rebellion. Johnson refused to apologize for his success or his life. The government strikes back in 1913. Federal authorities found a way to target him. They charged Johnson under the Mann Act. The accusation: transporting his girlfriend across state lines. The irony: she later became his wife. An all-white jury convicted him. Many historians now agree the prosecution was racially motivated. Johnson faced prison, but he wasn't finished fighting. 7 years in exile rather than immediately surrender, Johnson fled the United States. He spent 7 years in exile, boxing across Europe, living in France, Mexico, Spain, still fighting, still defiant. Eventually, he returned to America in 1920 and served nearly a year in prison. But even incarceration didn't erase his legend. The $50 speeding ticket one story perfectly captured Jack Johnson's personality. He was once pulled over for speeding. The officer issued a $50 ticket, a massive fine at the time. Johnson handed the officer $100. The officer said, "Sir, this is too much." Johnson replied calmly, "That's all right, because I'll be coming back this way at the same speed." That was Jack Johnson, defiant, unapologetic, unbothered. Justice. A century later. Jack Johnson died in 1946, but his story wasn't finished. More than a century after his conviction, historians, athletes, and civil rights advocates pushed for justice. Finally, in 2018, the United States government issued a posthumous presidential pardon. The conviction had taken 105 years to correct, but the record was finally cleared. The legacy Jack Johnson wasn't just a boxer. He was a cultural earthquake. He forced America to confront its racial boundaries. He lived loudly in a time when black men were expected to stay quiet. He fought with brilliance inside the ring and defiance outside it. Long before the civil rights movement, Jack Johnson showed the world something powerful. That dignity doesn't come from permission. Sometimes it comes from refusing to live by someone else's rules. Subscribe and comment if you'd like to hear more about black sports pioneers. And go to my videos to see more. We don't glorify injustice. We reveal truth, so history can't repeat itself.